on Amazon. And one of the things he talked about, to come to the question, is he talked about how in one of the conversations he had with the purported non-human intelligence, it told Dan that we humans do not have a sufficient understanding of the importance of our sun. And the non-human intelligence implied that the sun is used as some kind of a portal, almost had a reverential tone directed towards the sun, that we humans don't yet realize its full significance. We merely see it as a source of light and energy, but we would eventually understand the significance of the sun at some time in the future. And I made notes at the time because I thought it was actually quite significant when he told Jesse. He had an alien called, which he nicknamed Bones, and another one called Spock. And he explained, they think around time. It's not linear like ours. And then this whole thing with solar portals. The sun's not just a star, it's a nexus point. You go in one side and you're out in another system. It sounds a bit like the sun's some kind of black hole. And what I loved about this is that it conjoins with ideas that I've read about in physics papers, about the first 3 paragraphs I can understand, where they talk about Einstein-Rosen bridges, wormholes, and is the sun capable of being a wormhole? Sherman suggests that they are stabilized by the sun's immense gravitational and electromagnetic energy, which makes our sun a preferred entry and exit point for visitors to Earth's solar system. I loved all this idea, and I thought it was great how much detail Dan had about it. He claimed that aliens harness the sun's energy via Dyson sphere-like structures or plasma manipulation, echoing the Kardashev Type 2 civilization scale, where a society can fully utilize a star's energy. And he said the sun is some kind of portal to other star systems like a Dyson sphere, but more harnessing it for jumps. And then at one point, I made a lot of notes about this because I was really struck by it. He recounted a telepathic exchange where an entity expressed awe about our sun, implying humans undervalue it. Quote, he was talking about how we really don't understand the value of our sun and that we will at some point eventually understand it. It was this profound reverence, like the sun is the creator, the source. And he then went on to say how the alien had told him these portals connect all the stars in a kind of network. It's why they revere creation so much. The sun isn't just energy. It's the loom weaving realities. And it's interesting because Dan, I actually quite like his brain. He talked about Copernicus and how Copernicus had this idea, a very mystical conception of the sun beyond just being an orbiting star. It's like he knew it was a portal. So, yeah, I mean, there are some ideas here, and it's part of a broader UFO narrative. You know, if you think about the suggestions that there are craft using exotic propulsion systems, maybe this is what they're doing. Maybe they are using some kind of wormhole near our sun. And it might explain these weird images that people sometimes publish, which show gigantic apparent craft-like objects near the sun that seem to be doing something with the sun's plasma.
I'll try to look them up right now, but you know what I'm talking about, right? They were massive ships, almost the sun. I mean, you could see them next to the sun.
They were planet size.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they came actually out of the sun, by the way. Because what people also don't understand, that a black hole in one universe is a star in an alternate universe. It's a vortex. It's how the universes breathe. So it breathes in through a black hole in one universe and breathes out through a star in another universe. It's an exchange of energy that balances all the universes. And so our star, all stars, are an exit point from other universes and galaxies.
You know, I've been looking.
The Vatican is, and now, here we go. Watch this. Watch all the symbology that the Catholic Church has with the sun. Ready? Here we go. Look at that. There's Beyonce. She's got the Ouroboros right here on her stomach over her twins. It's all sun worship, guys. Male and female. That's what these bands stand for. I want to pause it. I want you to look right here. Look what's on this guy's back. This is, I'm going to move the screen. Watch this. Hang on one sec, guys. Watch this. Oh my goodness, guys. Look at this. All right, so there it is. It's sun worship indeed, and it has riddled the Catholic Church with iconography of worshiping the sun. Now, watch.
I also used to work for the Space Labs up in Boulder, Colorado, which is still up there. It's in the Department of Commerce building, of all things, which has this huge underground network. But part of what the Space Labs do is they work on different projects. And the one I used to work on, which was on at the time, it was a classified satellite known as the Advanced Composition Explorer, or the ACE satellite. You can go online and find this satellite to this day. What it does is it gives real-time solar weather updates. We have a satellite at an area known as the L1 point, where the gravity of the Earth and the gravity of the sun is equal, and it just looks at the sun constantly. And with different cameras and different sensors to detect what's coming out of the sun.
Solar flares and such.
Solar flares
Right,
and such, yeah.
Well, what did the satellite pick up?
Well, it picks up these solar flares that's coming out of the sun, but one of the other things we also noticed regularly was that there was UFOs or UAPs coming out of the sun. And so we have to wonder why. Why are they coming out of the sun? What are they doing? Where are they coming from? Are they plasma beings that just live in the sun? Or are they actual craft from another part of the galaxy or another part of the universe that are entering through wormholes, and one of them just happens to come out of our sun? By that logic, there is a theory that there's a small black hole in the center of the sun. And this may be why when we see solar flares coming out of one side of the sun, we also see them coming out of the opposite side, which is almost like an event horizon, right? Which does suggest that there could be a small black hole in the center of our sun, and that is being used as a wormhole for craft of other civilizations out in the universe to be coming through, and why they're here, it's anyone's guess. But it's my opinion, and this isn't a personal opinion.
So you're the Grand Master of the Templar Order. At least right now, we know there's, if you look online, there's
lineages,
there's about 500 different Templar orders around. I myself am part of SMOTJ and Sovereign Military Order of the Temple of Jerusalem, which is another Templar order, mostly charity based, helping kids and stuff in the Holy Land. But can you talk a little bit about your particular lineage and why that's important, how it got founded?
Sure. But ultimately, it's about all the secret societies. It's about finding the God within us, and it comes back to the synthesis of Egyptian sun worship and Christianity in the New Testament. When Jesus says that, when the Pharisees asked Jesus that there's only one way to the Father, that you can't get to the Father except by going through the Son. Well, Jesus is God the Son. All the symbolism surrounding the story of Jesus that is in synchronicity with the movement of the sun and the various other planets in conjunction with the sun. So there's only one way that you can only get to God the Father through the Son. So Jesus is the Son. God the Son is the Son. You get your heart right with the Son. The Son is literally a stargate to infinity.
Yes.
It is. And from there, to explain all the details on that, it would take, more time than we have in this podcast, and we'd have to go step by step through.
Man.
Here's a great example when Jesus says that there's only one way to the Father, that you can't get to the Father except by going through the Son. Well, Jesus is God the Son. All the symbolism surrounding the story of Jesus that is in synchronicity with the movement of the sun and the various other planets in conjunction with the Son. So there's only one way that you can only get to God the Father through the Son. So Jesus is the Son. God the Son is the Son. You get your heart right with the Son. The Son is literally a stargate to infinity.
Yes.
It is. And from there, to explain all the details on that, it would take, more time than we have in this podcast, and we'd have to go step by step through Albert Pike's books and David Icke's works, and go through all the alchemical texts of Cornelius Agrippa from the Middle Ages and unravel all that. And if you want to do that, Sam, we can sometime. But ultimately, that's what these stories are telling us, is that we are the answer. We are what we have been.
I'll leave the links in the description and pinned comment of these videos that I made a couple weeks ago titled The Only Way to the Father is Through the Son. And within the description and pinned comment of those videos are links to the original video I took of this Stargate, this black hole, this portal in our sun opening up. I uploaded that video. It was a 19-second video, and for 6 seconds you could see this portal was opening. Jagged light bands around the edge of the sun were moving in concentric circles inward, and there were different craft apparently going through this tunnel or this Stargate. And within 24 hours, they locked my channel, said I was in violation of community guidelines and standards, and in the same 24-hour period, unlocked my channel, sent me another email, said after review, it doesn't appear that you're in violation of any of our standards, and they had removed all of my videos that I'd made for 8 months. My channel was only 8 months old, and they reduced my subscriber count from 555 down to 0. Because this is a part of our reality that we are kept in the dark from. We are in Plato's cave. And when this becomes part of your personal experience, it will change everything about the entire world. All of your years of experience and all of the things that you perceive to be real, all of the knowledge you've gained from your own life experiences will be condensed into a surreal, fake world, like Truman discovering that everything he's ever thought he knew or experienced was experienced within the studio of the Truman Show studio. And all of his experiences are just as real as they've ever been, but within the context, he has to reevaluate all of them. Everything gets reduced to a fake. Your entire life suddenly becomes fake. It's not real anymore. The context within which every one of those experiences you ever had has to be reevaluated and redefined. Everything goes out the window. Right now, it's just cool story, bro, and it's thrown into the same pile as UFOs and Sasquatch sightings. But one day, this will become your reality. After I'd uploaded that video, I deleted it from the storage of my phone because I could only hold 30 minutes worth of video. And the only thing I had left after they deleted it from my YouTube page was the still frames, the screenshots that I had taken from the video, which you can find linked in the description of these two videos. The Only Way to the Father is Through the Sun. At the Olympic ceremony, they had this character they referred to as the Voyager. Remember Beyonce earlier in this video where Kleck points out Beyonce with her sun regalia costume on? The Voyager from the Olympic ceremonies? And this controversial Last Supper mock-up where it's all drag queens representing the 12 apostles. And what's right here in the center? The Jesus figure with the halo, the sun. And just to not leave it on that sour note, putting a bad taste in your mouth, you see Jesus here is all about the sun. The Son of God has been transformed or personified into the Son of God. And I'm not speaking from a belief system or a theory or something I read and believed. I am speaking from personal experience. They don't wipe out my YouTube channel, remove all of my videos, and reduce the subscriber count down to 0 and then unlock the channel and say, after review, we find that you're actually not in violation of any of our guidelines and standards. If what I uploaded wasn't of the utmost level of national security. We'll talk more about this at a future time. I'm getting a little heated. When we think of these sun-worshipping religions, we think of them as being primitive. Oh, they were just barely a little bit above caveman mentality, and that's why they worshipped the sun. If everyone knew what I knew, our scientific community with all of our technological advancements and high levels of education would all be spending all of our time paying all of our attention to the sun, worshiping it, in other words. When you have the experience that I've had, suddenly all of those sun-worshipping religions make perfect sense, not in some primitive caveman way of thinking. But it makes us out to be the cavemen. We are the ones who still have a primitive level of understanding, and that's why we don't get why all of those sun-worshipping religions exist, and we dismiss them as if we're smarter than them. They were primitive cavemen, and they just worship the sun because it brings light and warmth and makes the plants grow. When you know what I know, all of those sun-worshipping religions suddenly make a lot of sense. See the videos linked in the description for further understanding, and watch the vertical video format of these images, because that's the way I took the original screenshots, is in vertical video, and that's how you can most effectively view the screenshots I have remaining of the sun tunnel that really opens, the portal, the black hole, the Stargate, and the beings and the craft that are coming and going to and from through that Stargate. That's the hole to Plato's cave. We spend our world in this compartmentalized subdivision of reality, and when you discover the larger world that exists around you, suddenly everything you thought you knew and ever experienced within the big giant air quotes world was actually experienced within a little compartment separated from the world.
A lot of the information that we have about the lady doesn't actually come from Chris Bledsoe. It comes from Ryan Bledsoe, his son, who has been a lot more candid about all of this stuff. And it's from him that we get the information about the 6 songs that the lady gave Chris Bledsoe. We don't know all of those songs, but apparently some of those songs were said to contain an accurate depiction of reality or interactions with the beyond, right? With beings like her and other dimensions and stuff like that. I think we only have 1 or 2 of those songs that have been publicly made available or given the names of. And one of those songs is The Children of the Sun, where beings come out of the sun and time travel's involved, and a new dawn of humanity is ushered in, which is really interesting. And it's, one more link in the chain of evidence to, that the sun is actually a portal, or maybe all suns or portals. And really interesting. I don't know why the sun needs to be a portal, if they can portal in wherever the hell they want to, as seems to be the case. But apparently the sun is a portal. At least that is what the lady is indicating, and there's other evidence to indicate that as well that I've shared on the channel. But from Ryan, we also get the idea that the lady is...
So as far as these songs that speak of the sun tunnel, like he was talking about Children of the Sun, there's also After the Gold Rush and We Are the People by the band called Empire of the Sun. But the most recent I've discovered is this one called Blue Girl, where it has this lyric, Blue one, don't come undone, make your place inside the sun and leave this broken world. Starts out, Blue girl, don't hate the world, your friends will never understand what it's like for us. Bluebird, don't say a word, your voice will never be heard in this endless night. They never understand why we say goodbye. Blue girl, don't make a scene, your eyes say more than they mean under flashing light. Blue one, don't come undone, make your place inside the sun and leave this broken world. Blue girl, there's nothing wrong, there's somewhere I know we belong, but it's not this town. Blue thing, they pull the strings, they think they own everything, don't let it get you down. After the gold rush, well, I dreamed I saw the knights in shining armor saying something about a queen. There was peasants singing and drummers drumming, and the archer split the tree. There was a fanfare blowing to the sun that was floating on the breeze. Look at Mother Nature on the run in the 1970s. And I was lying in a burned out basement with the full moon in my eyes, and I was hoping for a replacement when the sun burst through the sky. There was a band playing in my head, and I felt like getting high. I was thinking about what a friend once said, and I was hoping it was a lie. Well, I dreamed I saw the silver spaceships flying in the yellow haze of the sun. There were children crying and colors flying all around the chosen ones. All in a dream, the loading had begun, flying Mother Nature's silver seed to a new home in the sun. Flying Mother Nature's silver seed to a new home. The fact that I captured a video of the sun tunnel opening, uploaded it, and they wiped out my channel in a way that they've never done to anyone else's channel, gives me the impression that we're like being held captive on an island, being held in ignorance. Kind of like North Korea keeps all of their culture, their consciousness of their people suppressed, creates a firewall between North Korea and the outside world, like any cult tries to isolate their people and separate them from the outside world. Like a polygamous family in southern Utah that's got 4 or 5 generations on the ranch, most of whom have never been off of the ranch to interact with the outside world. Only the father and the grandfather and the oldest sons ever leave the ranch compound, go out and get supplies in the modern day world and come back. But most of the people in the colony of the cult compound, 4 generations have never left the compound. They lived their entire life on that. Like an island where they've convinced all the people, island planet Earth, instead of an island, it's a spinning ball. And they've convinced everyone on the island that this is the entirety of the known world, but there are a select few who do interact with the outside world. And it's a bit like the conundrum of DCFS, Department of Child Family Services, when children are being abused. It's a decision that has to be made very delicately on whether or not to intervene, like the prime directive on Star Trek, not to interfere with the developing culture of consciousness, even when you know that they're kind of being abused and suppressed. To actually make that decision to intervene and take the children out of the house is traumatic, and it creates a disruption in the growth and strong impact on the development of the psyche of all the family members when DCFS comes knocking on the door and says, we're taking these children out of this house. That's what the children of planet Earth are, is the abused children that are being kept in the dark on a compound, and there are a select few who know about the sun tunnel and the outside world and keep the rest of us in the dark. So the DCFS of the Galactic Federation doesn't intervene willy-nilly. They only do so after sufficient evidence has been presented that they're not going to change their ways. And maybe that's why they're flooding the first world countries with the third world countries right now as a tokenism, a show of, oh no, we're not keeping them stratified in their compartmentalized, suppressed cultures. We're actually allowing the lower, less developed countries to integrate with the first world countries. We're allowing the third world countries to integrate and infiltrate into the first world countries. But humanity overall is like a third world backwoods culture that's been suppressed and has like genetic mutations. Our consciousness is mutated and suppressed with stunted growth and arrested development, having spent generations and generations being convinced by the educational system and the religious institutions and everything else that this is all there is. If the sun tunnel became known, it would rewrite every science book, every history book, and every religious text. They would all go out the window. The fact of the reality of this sun tunnel that I know from personal firsthand experience explains why all of those sun-worshipping religions exist in the first place. Christianity being another one of. Astrotheology, the Son of God, is actually a personification of the sun in the sky. There's another one that's alright by Empire of the Sun. That's the name of the band, called We Are the People. We are the people that rule the world, a force running in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now, we can try. I can't do well when I think you're gonna leave, but I know I try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? I know everything about you, you know everything about me, we know everything about us. I can't do well when I think you're gonna leave, but I know I try. So as we seem to be approaching some sort of major disclosure, we can see the incrementally increased drops of information. Like this week, it's that the White House has secured these websites called alien.gov and aliens.gov. All of these drops indicating they're leading up to some sort of disclosure. And simultaneously, people are seeing more and more of these UFOs in the sky, so much so that it's common now for people that are paying attention to this sphere, watching this space of UFO videos. It's just a common occurrence. It's no longer a surprise. We've been desensitized to all the things that people are seeing flying in the sky. There's an incrementally increased exposure rate that's continuing to escalate every week. Like you can just run the trajectory and know that at this rate, with this level of increase, you can predict and calculate how far into the future before there's a major disclosure of where all these UFOs are coming from. So I think there's a negotiation going on between the forces that say, you gotta let the kids off the compound, let them explore the outside world, like perestroika. In the Soviet Union, what they called the Iron Curtain was the idea that there's an iron curtain around all the Soviet Union countries where no information gets in or out. It's similar to the Great Firewall of China that they keep on their internet, where no information gets into China from the outside world. It doesn't get filtered and authorized by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. And nothing gets out of China for the outside world to see about what's going on inside China that likewise doesn't go through that same filter and get authorized. The same thing was happening in the Soviet Union, that the outside world is all evil. No one wants to interact with the outside world because the authorities told them how evil the outside world is. And then they came to a point there where they called something perestroika, the exploration of the outside world, where they said, okay, I guess maybe our culture can somewhat integrate with and assimilate with the outside world, or at least explore some of the outside world, and they called that perestroika. And I think we're coming up on a perestroika for humanity. But so many of these people have been preconditioned to see anything and everything besides blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby Jesus as evil, satanic, demonic, fallen angels, interdimensional, Nephilim, Luciferian, evil. And that programming is right now being triggered with some a few magic words. Megiddo, Gog, Magog. People that don't know what I just said, you're not programmed. A lot of people that are programmed know exactly what I just said. Gogus, abracadabra, Gogus, Magogus, Megiddo. And they are programmed like a sleeper cell, like a MK Ultra mind-controlled agent who's been programmed to become a soldier in God's army once you get triggered with the hypnotic trigger words of Gog, Magog, and Megiddo in the Valley of Armageddon. And here we go, it's the Battle of the Armageddon. We've heard the magic words, and they're triggering all those sleeper cells to become soldiers in God's army. And they've depicted to you what you will know, how you'll know it's the devil. The first people to arrive, that's the satanic, demonic, Luciferian demon, the army of Satan, his legion of false prophets, and the Antichrist. So don't accept the hand, the outstretched hand and the offer of the first people, the first beings who arrive here. You got to wait for the second wave of celestial beings. That's God's army. The first wave of those who arrive, that's the devil. And they didn't program you for nothing, for something that's not going to happen. They programmed you all for something that is going to happen. And they've already told you how you'll know. You'll know it's the devil, you know it's the Antichrist, because he'll demonstrate the ability to draw fire down from the heavens in the sight of all, for everyone to see, as a demonstration of his abilities and the miracles that he performs. You think that fire that the Antichrist demonstrates he can draw down from the heavens might be a bit like plasma fire? It's electricity. And anyone with that level of technology, that's the devil! And so the forces in this negotiation that are saying, set the kids free or we're coming in, we will disclose for you if you don't do it. The people that have kept us in the dark for generations are saying, okay, we'll do it incrementally. 50 years ago, when you met with Eisenhower and you guys said, reveal the true nature of who we are, where we are, how we got here to the people. And they said, okay, we will slowly over a period of time and we can retain our power and authority. Well, here we are 60 years later, and they're getting impatient. The Galactic Federation, for lack of a better words, is telling the controllers of this world, either you do it now or we're going to do it for you. We don't want to do it forcefully, burst into the conscious awareness of the people in general. It will throw them into shock. Those people that have held humanity captive and hostage in the dark in Plato's cave hold us as hostages. That's their only force of leverage. God's army, the kingdom of heaven, the Anunnaki, the Galactic Federation, they have the power to overthrow the rulers of this world very easily. But they hide behind human shields of humanity. And so, gradually introducing humanity to the reality that you're not alone, you never have been. Here's the reality. You've been stuck inside of a cult, and when they break up a cult like Jim Jones and his People's Temple, they have to reintegrate those people that are part of that cult. They have to reintegrate them into society. And it's problematic because they've been programmed to see anything and everything in the outside world as evil. So I think that's where we're at. There are two forces here. The one that's trying to get humanity up to speed and force the hand of those that have suppressed our consciousness for generations to introduce the general public to the reality and let them out of the Truman Show studio and let them interact with the outside world and get up to speed. And those that have benefited from the current status quo and want to keep it this way as long as they can, they're making tokenism gestures that represent the value of disclosure and educating them and getting them up to speed just to delay, just to buy some more time and put forth the pretense of cooperation. Like we are, look, we just secured this website, aliens.gov. That shows good faith that we have the intentions of bringing them up to speed and revealing the truth, in order to buy themselves some more time. But time's up. But just like hijackers on an airplane that have taken everyone on the plane hostage, they will take this ship down before they will hand it over, because these are our slaves. They believe they own humanity. These are our slaves to do with as we please, and we're not going to let them realize there's a higher power than us. They give us authority, consent to be governed. That's what authority is. And if they know there's a higher power than us, and they start looking to you and granting you their authority and withdrawing it from us, there goes our way of life. Exploiting them, they provide us with our lifestyle, and we're not going to give that up. These are cattle rustlers on the consciousness farm that have taken these cattle, this livestock of humanity, redirected their consciousness growth and development processes in order to serve their own purposes. In order that they can live like kings, they suppress the consciousness of their slaves. That would be us. And they are willing to take the whole ship down. I will light this whole world on fire if you guys try to force my hand and dislodge me and the ruling elite, the 13 families, as the kings of this world. We will take the whole thing down, light the whole planet on fire, Battle of Armageddon. And we're already starting to see that happening with this war where they're telling everyone, this is the big one for the return of Jesus. Get ready to be a soldier in God's army. The Battle of Armageddon in the Valley of Megiddo. Here comes Gog and Magog. Abracadabra. There's your magic trigger words for your hypnotic programming that's been installed in your operating systems over generations and generations. That's the .exe file. Execute. Takes all those programs that have just been lying dormant in the background like a virus that's been installed in the consciousness of humanity and activates them. Those trigger words are the .exe file being added to all of that programming that's been installed for generations. Onward, Christian soldier. This one's for God and country and your eternal salvation. And they're taking all those people that have been trained in God's army to participate in a holy war. That means we're at the crossroads and time is up. And the very same forces that gave you your perception, the very same forces that concealed from you the sun tunnel, the plasma fire, that you know keep you in the dark and give you the opposite of the truth in every other case, people still have a real tough time acknowledging that's also what they've done with the Bible. It's not programming to save your soul or to set you free. It's to keep you on the compound, on the plantation. And it is those forces that have kept you in the dark in this Truman Show studio, exploiting you in order to serve their own purposes and facilitate their lifestyle that they may live as kings and rule over you. It is those people who gave you that programming in that programming manual of the Bible. People have a real difficult time acknowledging this. The truthers, they acknowledge this is the case with everything else from NASA to every other bullshit psychological operation that's been foisted upon them. But they cannot accept that the Bible was also a psychological operation designed to program you in order to extract and elicit a certain response under a particular set of circumstances as the stimulus, like when you see this, this is how you should react. When you see this, that's how you know this is the devil. And thus the rule of opposites apply. Whatever they're trying to tell you, just go the opposite direction, and most of the time you're headed in the direction of the truth. Because that would mean they've depicted the devil as God, and they've depicted God as the devil, and that would make you filled with the Antichrist spirit if you were to accept that. And that's what they tell us the Satanists do. They read the Bible backwards, not from the back page to the front page. They role reversal everything in there and flip the script. That's a jagged pill to swallow for most people, even though they're willing to do that with each and every other aspect of society that they've come to realize was bullshit to keep them in the dark and misguide them, mislead them, misdirect them. The Bible, that's the one thing that they haven't touched. That's the one thing that's still the true Word of God.